Awesome date, April 18th, 2008. Awesome topic, Crystal Chronicles, The Ring of Fates. This is the OSMcast. Hi, Internets.
Hi, Internets.
This is the OSMcast, your podcast for everything awesome. I'm Basil.
And I'm Nobody.
And to our left is, well...
Another Nobody.
Also Nobody. As Eric's at work, but we said, screw that. We're going to keep going.
Well, it's really just the same since he doesn't really seem to play Crystal Chronicles quite as much as we do. He's all into the PSP, and so I feel that I should go ahead and mention, since we're mentioning him, that new Final Fantasy game out with the Crisis and the Cores.
Oh, yes. The Cool Ranch.
Oh, God.
What you get when you combine the materials.
Oh, God. Zack is so awesome. Just in case you guys didn't know, as it turns out, if you ever played Final Fantasy VII, you simply didn't realize that the actual main character of Final Fantasy VII was Zack. He just unfortunately died before the game actually happened.
Yeah, I heard that apparently the main character, Zack, of Final Fantasy VII is more likable than all the other characters of Final Fantasy VII combined.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but I know that I was a huge Zack fangirl back when I was actually playing the game and wrote many Zack Cloud fan fictions. But that's neither here nor there.
But is your unadulterated affection for Zack now justified?
Yes, I feel that it is. I feel that, the rampant fandom for Zack that was spawned after him, having essentially what boiled down to 2 lines in the entirety of the video game, was justified. And as it turns out, he is just as awesome as I thought he was.
Oh, that's good.
It's basically a game similar to Kingdom... Crisis Core basically plays like the original Kingdom Hearts did. Not like Kingdom Hearts 2, but more like Kingdom Hearts 1. Except for you're playing as Zack instead of Sora. There's no Disney things, and a lot of times it has a tendency to not let you actually play the game so much as it just prattles story on off at you. And it's made by Square, so God, it's pretty.
Now, are you enjoying the story that's being prattled to you?
It's okay. It's about as good as any Square story recently, really. I mean, it's better than Dirge of Cerberus, which... It's
the same storyline as Shadow the Hedgehog.
There's a reason we don't talk about those games. And I think we should move on.
Yeah. In a similar vein, the game I've been mostly playing besides Crystal Chronicles is almost a Square game. It's Mistwalker's Lost Odyssey, which is, the actual Final Fantasy XI that we never got. Because it's made by Sakaguchi, the guy who brought us Final Fantasies 1 through 10. It really plays and feels, and the whole story feels like it's what he's been doing for the past, bazillion years, just now on the 360 instead of the PS2. And you got, this guy named Kaim, who's lived for 1,000 years, who's very quiet, doesn't talk a lot, kind of just keeps to himself, like all dark, brooding, main character type guys. But also, well, it's also was justified since he can't remember anything, because one of the disadvantages of being immortal and can't die is you can't remember anything. But the game plays pretty cool. It plays like a combination of the good bits of 10, the good bits of 8, and the good bits of 9, all sort of rolled up into one creamy caramel center. But that's not why we're here today. Today, we're talking about an entirely different Square Enix game for the DS.
Oh, perhaps man. I love this game so much. Whenever we go... Just so that you people know. Whenever we go out, and I encounter other people that I know own this game, I force them to drag it out, and we must play at least one level and one quest. And I don't care which level or quest we play, just as long as, oh god, I get some sweet, sweet Crystal Chronicles action.
It's... As the primary person who plays with Nobody in this game, I can attest to this. thankfully, I enjoy the game almost as much, so it's okay.
I'll be honest, the only reason I agreed to do the podcast this week was actually because Basil here promised to play Crystal Chronicles with me afterwards, so I'm sort of bound to do this now.
Well, I would like to point out that I first mentioned doing a Crystal Chronicles podcast. You were like, yes! And then I offered to play afterwards.
Yes. Simply because of how excited I was. As you probably gathered from just how vehement I am about playing this game, it's a really awesome little game. I'm going to talk for a moment about comparing it to the original Crystal Chronicles, which, Basil, do you remember the original Crystal Chronicles?
Yeah, it was for GameCube. It was made by, way back in the day, Nintendo and Square were buddy-buddy. Then when the PlayStation came out, Nintendo was like, we're going to use cartridges. So it was like, we're going to use really cheap CDs. Square was like, alright, screw you carts, we're going to CDs. And Nintendo was pretty pissed. And they didn't talk with each other for a while, and then, out of nowhere, they're like, yeah, we're going to make games together again. And they're like, we're going to give a completely brand new original Final Fantasy game for the GameCube. And then we got it, and, well, the name was Final Fantasy. It was Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. And it was this... And while it has, like, chocobos and moogles and stuff, and, you know, the spells are more or less the same, and you're saving the world and all, it was much more like a really awesome reinvention of, like, Gauntlet than it was, like, you know, a Final Fantasy game. It was, you know, real-time action, multiplayer-centric, and you ran around whacking things together as a group and doing stuff.
So I see you remember the history of Crystal Chronicles. But do you remember it? Do you remember the taste and the feel and the deliciousness that it was to sit down in front of that game?
Well, no one quite understands that quite as well as you do, since you played it nonstop, multiplayer or single player.
Well, some of the things that are different between the DS version and for the GameCube version that fans of Crystal Chronicles like me will probably notice right off the bat is that the version for the DS is a much, much more simplified version. They took out a lot of the intricacies of solo combining the magics and the magicites. They made it so that, you remember how your magicite would all disappear at the end of every level, but you could cast it infinitely? Well, they took that out. It now works. You still get to keep your magicite that you get from one level to the next. The problem is that every time you cast a spell, it disappears. So it really turns the magicite into more like one-use items.
Yeah.
As opposed to, infinite items that you had to constantly recollect. And you were just boned if you didn't get Cure to drop for a while.
It's true, although you could also buy a magicite before going into dungeons from the city, so
yeah,
you can stock up, which is what I usually did.
Also, I would act back and actually play the original Crystal Chronicles, and I realized that I did kind of miss the whole thing where in the original you got to pick out your family and you got to design your costume a little bit more. Crystal Chronicles for the DS, you don't really have that same family thing going on. Like, you don't pick what your family does. It's really just your character. But on the other hand, while at first it doesn't look like you get to customize your character as much, you actually get to customize it a whole lot more, because what you buy, the items that you buy at the shops actually affect what your character is dressed up as, whereas that wasn't how it was in the original. And you can also change the hair color.
You also change the hair color. Also, you can also mix and match your stuff. You get tops and bodies.
Yeah.
And there's also lots of gag or costume pieces that you can make.
Yeah, I made the full White Mage set and ran around in it for a while, even though it technically wasn't as good.
But it looks cool.
Oh man, it looks like a little White Mage running around.
Right, man, I'm rocking an awesome samurai looking dude. Cutting things up, being all samurai-like. It's pretty great. The multiplayer, nobody said it's not advanced, the DS introduces one wonderful, awesome element, and that they took away a bucket.
Yeah, they took away the bucket. No bucket.
The bucket, the way the GameCube worked was, everyone had to have their own link cables to Game Boy Advances, and in order to keep everyone on the same screen, they introduced what we refer to as the bucket, which was pretty much created a circle that everyone could run around in.
I think even in the game it was called the chalice, which isn't really that different from the bucket. You know, pretty much if you play the game, you'll know what the bucket is the moment you start playing it. It's the bucket.
In single player, there's a Moogle that carries the bucket for you, but in multiplayer, one of the players has to carry the bucket, which means that a person has to run around holding something instead of playing the game.
Well, it's not as bad as you make it sound. Usually your best bet is to when you're going in, designate one person is going to be your healer. And the healer ought to pick up the bucket and carry it, since they're not going to be charging off into battle anyway. They're probably going to want to put the bucket down and start casting. Has always been the strategy that my little group has done.
Well, you put way more thought of it than I think anyone else on the internet did.
Yeah, probably. I really loved this game. Also, a lot of people have complained that the solo player Moogle carrying around the bucket was almost more annoying than the one person having to carry around the bucket, because you were constantly having to, like, shave the Moogle if you wanted to go someplace hot, or, like, let his hair grow back if you wanted to go someplace cold, paint him different colors, depending on the level. It was a bigger hassle than it was really worth. A lot of Crystal Chronicles, like, there were all these different things in the game, like your likes and dislikes and what food you wanted to eat, and you could change what food your character liked, and there was just a whole bunch of things that didn't really affect the game, and were really just kind of examples of Squaresoft trying to make the game more complicated than it actually needed to be, purely for the sake of it being more complicated than it actually needed to be. And a lot of that has just been removed for the DS version.
Yeah. Instead of the DS actually takes a page from almost like the Four Swords adventure for Zelda, and that everyone can run around wherever they want. The only thing is you have to be together when you move to the next area of the level.
Yeah.
And because everyone has now their own screen, everyone can manage their items separately, and all you really need is someone with a DS and a copy of the game. Way easier to make happen than the GameCube, where everyone had to have link cables, and Game Boy Advances, and everyone had to hurtle around the TV. Now we can all pile into a room, sit wherever we want in the room, and have at.
You also take a much more active role in the story. Well, first of all, there is a story. The plot of the single player for Crystal Chronicles DS, I would put it on par with just about all of your old school Final Fantasies that weren't heavily plot intensive. Like, I would put it along there with the plot that was in 2, the plot that was in 3, the plot which was in 5. You know, which they're not bad plots at all. They're just, the gameplay is more important than the plot.
Right.
Relatively decent plot where you actually do play as a typical Final Fantasy hero. In the multiplayer, you actually are the hero, you know, who is saving the main city from the monsters that are growing up, and you're helping repopulate the town. Which, you know, compare that to the original Crystal Chronicles, where you were a group of people who were collecting mist for your town, and the actual heroes were some other people, and they just unfortunately died before they saved the world, and you just happened to be there. You're sort of like the merchant at the end of the level that, you know,
just happens also to be badass enough to actually pull it off anyways.
Yeah, it would sort of be like if the shopkeeper up in the northern city on Final Fantasy VII, if you failed to kill Sephiroth, and he was just kind of like, well, I'll go beat him, and then did. That was pretty much what happened in Crystal Chronicles.
Man, if that's what happened in 7, that would have been so awesome. I wouldn't hate on the game nearly as much as the shopkeeper did that. That'd be great.
For me, one of the biggest things I actually didn't like when they changed, like most of these changes I like when they've changed over from the GameCube over to the DS version. One of the changes I didn't like was they changed the different races around and what they did a little bit.
It's true.
In the original Crystal Chronicles, your Klavats, they were still the human stand-ins, but they were much more oriented towards farm life. They were better at making things grow. They were actually better healers than any of the other races. But just about all their stats were normal. They were the middle of the road.
Whereas the DS version, they're the fighters.
Oh, by far and away.
They are the fighters. There's the race that you use to whack things until they die. And awesome swishy sword cinematics.
Yeah, if you don't have a Clavat in your party when you go up against a boss, that thing's going to take forever.
Possibly with multiple retries.
Yeah. Let's see. The Selkies were changed. The Selkies were kind of, in the original game, they were kind of gypsies that focused on the quickness of their attacks. In the DS, they still kind of kept the gypsy aspect, but they're now rangers and have double jump.
Yeah, they don't use ranged attacks, and they can double jump, which is awesome when you're playing cooperatively.
Oh, double jump breaks the game. Like when you're playing the single player story, once you get the Selkie, you really only need to play as the Selkie and the Clavat, and you break the stage with the Selkie, and then when you have to fight, you summon the Clavat up, and then have him whack on everything.
Yeah, that sounds about right. When we play multiplayer, I play the Clavat.
I play the Selkie.
And we own.
Yes. The biggest change in all of these was in the original Crystal Chronicles, the Lilties were this neat little warrior clan. It was a really innovative and creative idea to have these little people be, your fiercest warriors. They could take the most damage, they had the most hit points, they were better at blacksmithing and everything. But in this game, they're randomly alchemists.
And they're very cheery, very happy. You pat them on the head and they go, ooh.
Yes.
And
they're totally not warriors anymore.
Yeah, although when you play multiplayer, they do keep their axes. They do get the most hit points.
Yeah, they do.
But they're not nearly as awesome as they were in the original Crystal Chronicles.
While both Lilties and Clavats are short range, Lilties just not only are they short range, but they just don't do enough damage to really compete with a Clavat in terms of their fighting. The real reason to have a Liltie in your party is that throughout all of the stages, there are these little wells that emit magic, and having a Liltie in your party is actually just a real cheap and easy way to restock your magicite.
Yeah, I tried playing Liltie for a little bit, and I was like, screw this, I'm going back to my Clavat.
It really sucks for the person who you trick into playing the Liltie, and you do kind of have to trick them into playing the Liltie.
Yeah, it's true. The Ukes...
The Ukes are unchanged. The Ukes are exactly what they were, which is birds with helmets.
Kind of weird.
I'm sure that if you have that one guy in your group of friends that's just a little bit off, just a little bit twitchy, he'll love playing a Uke for just some odd reason. They're actually the magic casters. A lot of times, in my opinion, the Ukes look absolutely awesome in, like, the magic gear.
Yes.
Like, the Black Mage hat on the Ukes just looks freaking sweet.
Right.
And they do have a longer range when they cast. It takes them less time to cast. They're just, in general, better casters. And there are a lot of the boss fights. A lot of the boss fights have some little trick, like if you use the right magicite at a certain point or when a boss does a certain thing, it makes the whole thing much easier. It really is worth having a Uke in your party if you get somebody who doesn't want to be the Clavat or the Selkie. I would definitely take a Uke over a Liltie.
So really, your optimum party is probably 2 Clavats, a Selkie, and a Uke.
Well, there are places that you can't get to without a Liltie. Lilties can now, because they're alchemists, summon pots, which makes total sense.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I mean...
And because Lilties are so little, they can fit inside their alchemy pots and roll places, which, again, makes total sense.
But really, only if you want to find, like, all the really hidden things are they necessary. If you just want to run through the game and play the game and fight around with your friends...
Actually, if you want to find all the hidden things, all you really need is two Selkies. You stack one Selkie on top of the other, have the bottom Selkie double jump to wherever it is you need to go, and then have the top Selkie double jump to wherever it is to go. There is nothing in the game you can't topple that way. Of course, if you getting back is a different story.
Yeah, we learned that ourselves once, too. We're like, oh, there's a steep chasm. I wonder how we should get there. Now, the right answer would be to go back, go to the room, hit a switch to activate an extra platform. But no, what we did, I jumped into the chasm through Nobody's character, who then double jumped to get the other side. Which worked really well until Nobody had to come back.
You remember how we were saying that you have to stand in the same place, at the same entryway to go from the next stage? It pretty much resulted, I was standing at my end of the door, shouting for Basil to come over to my side of the door. He was like, well, why don't I just die and then I'll automatically go in through you? And that was when we discovered that you can't actually permanently die from jumping off a cliff. It'll reduce you to 1 health point, and that's it. And we'd already slayed all the monsters in the room.
Yes, I forget quite how we figured out to get away, but somehow we did without restarting the game. Because we really didn't want to restart the game.
No, we had come too far.
But we succeeded, and then proceeded to...
I think I actually died in the end, was what
Yeah,
happened.
I think you found one more enemy.
Yeah, I think I double jumped across another chasm that I obviously wasn't supposed to be able to double jump over into, found some mobs, and got one of the mobs to kill me.
Yeah, so then, and if some of the characters die, as long as one of the character can move to the next room, you all will move. And we sort of abuse that to get out of
that situation.
And then immediately proceed to heal ourselves like crazy.
Yes.
Now you do get the, and one of the things about Crystal Chronicles for the GameCube was that if two people time their magic at the same time, they would double the effects of the magic.
Oh, and that actually is true in this game. We're just too impatient to do that.
Yeah, it's true.
Me and Lee, actually, when we were playing, we did that a lot. After you get the timing just right, actually, like one person releases just like a split second before the second person releases, you'll actually even triple it. So even if you only have 2 people in your party, you can actually cast like Thundaga instead of just Thundara, etc., etc., etc. However, cast some, like, I think it does take 3 people to cast Holy. I forget what the exact mana combination is, but...
I would just rather whack things until they die.
Yeah.
Is what I've discovered. I like the whacking things a lot.
Yeah, you can do the complicated magic stuff, but honestly, it's much easier to just play a clavat and whack it.
Which is what I tend to do in these sorts of games, so... But it's lots of fun. It's very a quick, very responsive game. You never feel like you're lagging when you're doing your sword swings. It really does feel like the closest thing I've seen to, a next-gen, unquote, Secret of Mana.
Yeah, it's a real fun little game, and it's, like I say, it's really great to get together with a whole group of people and do everything.
Like, only thing I really wish that there was more of it. I mean, there's plenty of levels, there's plenty of stuff that you can do in this game. I still want more, and I'm sure they'll do a sequel. Square's been all about the sequels lately.
The multiplayer mode has a couple of things. For one, it has all the stages that you can play. If you actually play through single player, if you play through single player all the way through, when you come back and play it through again, there's actually new stages that open up that you can play. Now, I haven't gotten all the way through multiplayer yet because it requires you people being there.
Well, yes.
But I assume something like that is going to happen for multiplayer. I know for a fact that if you beat all the stages on multiplayer, when you come back, you can actually play them on a hard level, just like you can when you come back in single player. So it has a really great sort of new game plus type thing going on for it, which really helps its replayability.
Yes. And there's also quests.
Yes. Oh, the quests.
Boy, this is something I did not expect for them to do, and when we were running around, first time we started this game up, we did a multiplayer session, and we were running around the city, we're like, oh hey, there's this king here. Oh hey, he has quests. Let's do a quests. We'll do tough cookies, because we fight monsters. And we proceeded to die.
Die horribly.
It was a travesty. Man, we sucked.
So we left, we went to Valley of the Heroes, beat that level, beat the giant enemy crab at the end. Well, that's actually a giant enemy scorpion, but...
There is eventually a giant enemy crab in the game, though.
Oh, yes. Oh, giant enemy crab. I love you so.
But yeah, we beat it. Then we about take on tough cookies, and we did fine.
Yeah, it was easy that time around. Now when we go do tough cookies, though, we way out level the quest, and it's just like, we just kill it.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of different quests, both cooperative and competitive. For example, like Tough Cookies is
cooperative.
There's another one that's like a Battle Royale type one.
I forget what it's called, but it's one where you're competing for who can kill the most monsters.
And let me say, if y'all have over-leveled, don't trust the Selkie.
What? No,
Don't
it's not my
trust Selkie.
fault. It's not my fault that my attacks are ranged and I can just fire aimlessly around and kill things quicker than you.
Honestly, when you level up that Selkie, you can shoot in like 5 or 6 different directions at once.
5 is max.
So there's like an entire cone of death that nobody emits by pressing the attack button across the entire stage, which means that I'm going to kill this, it's dead. I'm going to go kill... It's dead. I eventually just stopped trying.
There's also a game called the Moogle Plant Harvest.
Yes.
Which is real fun. It's also competitive, where you're trying to compete with each other to see who can pull up the most little Moogle plants. Double jump helps in that, too.
But it's not quite so bad, because the placement of the plants are random.
Yeah.
There's 1-pointer plants and 5-pointer plants. So if you pick the right path, you can still be competitive. Like, there are times where I'll win around, and then nobody will around, I'll win around, nobody will around. I mean, it's much more evened out that way.
Although I do have to say, for that quest, they did something kind of stupid on that quest, in my opinion, with the time limit.
Yeah.
In that you have to do it all within a certain time limit, and we eventually got so high up in the levels of the Moogle plant race, that we eventually had to start doing it cooperatively.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't...
we wouldn't be in time.
The quest would just fail every time, so we just had to either get more people or just
play
do
low
it.
levels.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess works. That means that gives the 4 people more stuff to do.
Yeah.
And there's also one where you have to save cows from aliens.
Oh, this is a very important quest. Very important quest, saving the cows from aliens.
And I'm not kidding. There are cows... and UFOs show up, and you have to grab a hold of the cows to drag them down so that aliens don't steal them.
Double jump helps with this.
No jump helps a lot. What I tend to do is I tend to mark out my set of cows, and I'll just stay around there and pick those cows down.
Yeah, you only need a minimum of 3 cows to survive in order to actually pass the stage, so what I do, again, is I just pick, like, okay, these 3 cows are going to live, and... just rescue those cows. And if I'm guarding 3 cows and Basil's guarding 3 cows, at least 6 cows are going to make it.
Yeah. And then you have more people, it's a lot easier. But it's still fun. It's still need to go, oh crap, alien! Must grab cow. Oh, I missed the cow. No, cow!
There are some other things that you would expect more from this kind of game, such as, a stage like click all the switches.
Yeah.
A stage like go find all the white and black cats and put them into a different pen, which to me harks a lot of go capture the pigs and go capture the chickens from Zelda games.
Yes, like, I feel a lot of Zelda vibes too, but like for Secret of Mana, it's a very good action RPG.
But the really great thing about all these quests is actually the king who dispenses them.
Oh yeah, the king is a jolly good soul who will say the randomest things.
Maybe even a crazy good soul.
Yes. But thankfully his kingdom is being saved, so everyone still likes him.
Yes, in fact, the more you save his kingdom, the more his people like him.
But he keeps giving you fat loots, so it's okay.
Oh, it's really great. When you do... This is a kind of jip on the cooperative thing. Okay, you remember in the original Crystal Chronicles... you would get little, like, missions at the bottom of on your little handheld screen. And it would say things like, don't take any damage this round, or,
I remember that now.
Don't pick up anything, or collect the most money. Just little missions like that. And then at the end of the stage, the person who succeeded in their mission most would get to pick. Now, when me and Lero were playing, we never had a problem of competing over that, because I was way too into being the healer and she was way too into being the tank. But I understand a lot of other people had a real problem with one guy would almost always be a dick about little missions and, end up always getting to pick first. Well, this kind of removes that because when you do the competitive quests, it doesn't matter. Like, you line up in order of who did the best, and the king says, "Aw, excellent," and then he lets you have your fair shot at the loot, the same as if you had all just been standing right next to each other.
And now you do get a slight advantage in that you get to the loot first, but usually by the time you start grabbing loot, they're grabbing loot too.
Yeah.
Now, that said, the loot is the same loot you get when you play through the game anyways.
Yeah, it's not anything particularly special. Like, purely if you're doing the quests and you're doing the competitive games, you're doing it just for the love of competing with your friends. You're not doing it to really get something at the end, which I think helps keep a friendlier vibe in there. Like, I imagine you would have been much more pissed off at me if I had done that broken thing where I just, like, turned around and sprayed death around the entire stage if there had been an actual prize at the end.
Or when there's a quest where you have to hold on to the bucket long enough, and as you hold on to the bucket, you get points. And whoever gets the most points wins. What nobody would do would just grab the bucket, then jump places that I couldn't jump to. And so I'd have to run around to get to the point. By the time I had to get to nobody's jumped down and jumped to another point that I can't get to.
Yeah.
And so I'll never get near the bucket. So I was at the point where the game was no longer pick up the bucket, but pick up nobody. And just throw nobody around.
I would still use my double jump to hurt him.
Yes, it's true.
Oh, but it's such good times. Such good times.
It's true. Man, we need to get to that hard mode, though.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's time that we bid you guys good day, because we've got quests complete.
And things to do, and giant enemy crabs to kill.
Crab battle!
So, we'll bid you adieu. Adieu.
Adieu.
This has been the OSMcast. To learn more about us, check us out on the web at OSMcast.com.
OSMcast. So awesome, only 3 letters can contain it.
Or send us an email at awesomecast@gmail.com. See you next time.
Bye-bye.